back to Omega. Today we're going to be talking about the Golden State Killer, and just a disclaimer, this is for education purposes, and I don't mean to, no disrespect towards the family. This is a bunch of information I gathered from the internet, and if anything, I just want to say that the family stayed really strong towards the whole case, and I'm really proud of them. I'm Ava.
I'm Evan.
I'm Gabriel.
I'm Angel.
And I'm Ari.
Okay, so I'm gonna start. They're gonna react, you know. I'm gonna tell them the facts, and along the way, we're gonna see what you guys think about him. I'm gonna start with telling you guys about the crimes, and then who he is. So you guys don't know who he is, or you guys know who the person is? No. No. Okay. So the Golden State Killer. He was known as 3 different, aliases. So he was first known as the Visalia Ransacker, and he started that in April 1974. And he committed over 120 burglaries in Visalia, and he ended up stopping that in December of 1975, and he got a lot of experience from committing burglaries. He would break into people's homes, and he wouldn't take anything valuable most of the time. He would go in and he would take mementos, and it was just like a lot of killers do this, and it's just like to show where you've been, kind of like when you collect pins from different states, but this is more creepy, you know. So he would not take expensive stuff. He would take like handkerchief, like, how do you say that?
Handkerchief.
Yes, and then, or just 1 of 2 earrings, or like a bed sheet pillowcase. Like, he would take really weird stuff, you know? And in 1976, which is a day after he stopped, or a year after he stopped ransacking, mass rapes started in Sacramento. So they realized that there was this man going around stalking women, because he wouldn't just like go after them. He would stalk them for days, and he would just really watch their every move, see whenever their husband, or if they were single, when they were off from work, when they were going into work, and he would really go down on them, and he would break in, and sometimes he would linger up to 45 minutes after the rape was committed, or 45 minutes before. I mean, this dude was known for leaving DNA everywhere. I mean, sometimes he would take showers in their houses. He would go in their kitchen, make a sandwich. There was this one case where he slept in the couch. After committing a rape, he slept in the woman's couch until the next morning, and then he untied her and left. And the reason, you're probably like, oh, well, why didn't they catch him? The reason why, he had really good knots. And this is a thing that's going to play in later. He had really good knots. And the police thought he must have had some kind of military experience or police experience. And they thought he was really good at knots. And when they were couples, he would really get both of them involved. You know, he was very sick. And he would tell them oh, tie the knot tighter and stuff like that, and he would teach them how to knot, and they realized that they were military kind of knots, and he would do this very often, and he would also harass his victims after the fact. So he would, whether they were married or not, because oftentimes they were a couple, he would call them and be like, they were really creepy calls. I listened to at least 2 or 3 of them when I was researching this. And the video I watched, which is where I got most of my information from, she played 2 of them, and they were so creepy. He would call them and would be like, hey, I'm the person that tied you up, or I'm this person, and I'm gonna come back for you. And it was just really creepy. The way he would come in their house, maybe he was already there, and he would stun them. He would wake them up, right? He would wait until they were asleep, and he would stun them with a really bright, I believe it was a flashlight, and he would just stun them, and then they would be confused, and then he was wearing a ski mask, so they really couldn't tell who it was, but everybody would note the same thing. He was blonde, blue eyes, and he was about 6 feet tall and 180 pounds. That was like the most set thing. Um, so after he stopped the mass rapes, or he didn't really stop, but there was a sentence where this is the most known case. In Contra Costa County, he raped a young teenage girl with her father and her sister were in the home. It was like 4 p.m. and he snuck in, raped the little girl, and he stayed there for over 40 minutes. And her father and her sister were in the home, and he was that sneaky, you know. They didn't know she was in there. The girl came out of the room once he left, and she finally got to untie herself. Came out of the room, told them everything that happened. They called the police, and he was nowhere to be found. And after the mass rapes, this is the instance where he became the Golden State Killer. So his first murder. In 1978, he started committing murders. He got comfortable and struck a couple outside. So he used to just go inside, right? Like in the comfort of other people's home. And one day he just got comfortable. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna get this couple outside. And usually, well, if you are in bed and someone comes in, you're gonna be scared, right? But if you're outside, the husband wasn't scared. So this is the story of Brian and Kate. And the husband wasn't scared. He started fighting back. And they ran into a neighbor's backyard, and that's where he sadly killed both of them. He shot both of them several times, and that's how they recognized him as the Golden State Killer. But at this point, nobody knew this was the same person. So they thought they had a mass, burglary person, I don't know what you would call that, and then a mass rapist, and then a mass murderer. They thought they were 3 different people. So now I'm going to tell you who he is. So Joseph James D'Angelo, he was, let me tell you about his past. He was born in New York and moved to California when he was young. And he was born in November 8th, 1945. In 1964, he joined the U.S. Navy and served 2 years in Vietnam. He graduated with an associate's degree in police from Sierra College and graduated with honors. So he was noted to be a very good student. Like, teachers loved him. He graduated with honors. He was a very good kid. In 1971, he attended Sacramento State University and earned his bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So you can see a pattern here. I mean, he was in the Navy, he served 2 years in Vietnam, he got his associates in police science, and then criminal justice. And from May 1973 to August 1976, he was a burglary unit police officer. So now you know why he's good, you know? And he was a police officer in Auburn County, California, from August 1976 to July 1979. So now I'm gonna tell you how he was caught. So I'm pretty sure we talked about this, DNA evidence. It's been huge. I mean, there's 23andMe and Ancestry.com, and they're like huge things right now. They're very popular. That's how he was caught. They took his DNA evidence from several years ago, and they matched it to, I think it was 50 suspects, and they narrowed it down to 2 people, and one of the men was like, oh, I'll personally go and test it myself, because he was like, I'm not it, you know? He was like, he was really willing to prove that he wasn't it. So they ruled him out. And the reason why I brought this up one of the last episodes, was because they think this is a huge, because they didn't have a warrant to search his trash can or to swipe his doorknob, which is how they got his DNA in 2018. So they think it was unethical. But honestly, when you commit this many murders and rapes, I think you don't have any rights. So he was arrested on April 24th, 2018, and The police were stalking him because they had already ruled out the other guy and they were sure it was him. So they swiped his DNA from his door and got a tissue from their trash can, from his trash can, and obviously without a warrant. And then they found him guilty. So they matched the DNA and they applied 8 counts of first-degree murder. On March 10th, the Santa Barbara District Attorney added 4 more counts. And then they added another count. So in court, he'll be charged with 13 counts of murder and 13 counts of kidnapping, at least 50 rapes, and over 100 burglaries. Sorry, I have a lot of trouble with that word. Sadly, he can't be charged for the burglaries or the rapes anymore because the statute of limitations, which is honestly really sad for the family.
What's that?
So the statute of limitations is you have a certain time period for when you can charge somebody for something. So that has exceeded. Huh? It's honestly very dumb. So let's say it's like 50 years that he already exceeded that, but I think it's like 30. I think that's what the girl in the video said. So they can charge him for the burglaries or the rapes. Yeah, but he still has 13 counts of murder. So a thing that they noted was it's gonna they're gonna take him to court, obviously, but it's not starting soon. So he's 74 this year, 73 when he got arrested, and they think the trial is gonna start spring 2020, and the least it's gonna last is 10 years. So he might not even be alive to see his sentence, and it's gonna cost the minimum 20 million taxpayer dollars, and they're seeking the death penalty. So I was gonna say hopefully, but that's kind of harsh.
No, I was gonna say hopefully.
Yeah. So they feel like hopefully if they seek the death penalty and he says he's guilty, they'll like prosecute him earlier because he might not live to see what his sentence is, which is very sad. And he was arraigned in Sacramento in August 23rd, 2018. So last year, he was barely caught, which is, he started in 1974, 26 plus 18, that's over 40 years that he like got away with it. So yeah, the statute of limitations is way overdue.
What I find crazy about this is like all the he was in the military. He was he was such a good he had like everything going for him. Like, if you think about it, he had everything that he did everything right.
And that's
where did it go wrong?
That's another thing. This is how he stopped being a police officer. So he stopped being a police officer in 1976. So in 1976, he got caught stealing dog repellent and something else from his police station, and they were like, well, why are you stealing? And then he was like, yeah, no, I stole it, here, let me give it back. So he didn't want them to see, to ask, why were you stealing that, what are you doing? Because if they saw that, they were gonna figure it out. So he just quit. He was like, you know what, here's your stuff back, let me just quit. So he quit, and they never investigated it because it was a little sketchy, but they were like, he's a weird dude. So he went on to find another job, and so in 2017, he, he retired. He retired in 2017, just a year before he got arrested. And they would say he was not a neighborly person. He was very rude. And there was this restaurant where he was frequently, he was a frequent, right? And the waitress said that he was really creepy. The waitresses, they would say that he would hit on them and that he was really creepy, and that everybody around him would say that he always brought up the Golden State Killer. He would always bring him up. He would always be like, oh, I wonder why they never caught that guy. And they thought it was like he was just getting old and remembering like things that were happening when he was young. So they thought he was like going into a dementia episode or something. But his neighbors would say that one time their dog came over and ripped his flowers, and he was like, I will bring death upon you, like I will rain death upon you. Like he called them and they got it in a voicemail, and they were just like, oh, old James, like he's old, like it's fine. But he was a killer, and I think that's so crazy. Like that's just mind-boggling. So how do you guys feel about this case? Like this could have been your neighbor, you know?
How do you know? That was so crazy.
Again, like, well, something must have, like, he had to have, like, a turning point in his life to, like, do all that.
Yeah.
He never stated one because
Dude, I know though. Like,
some killers will be like, oh, well, my wife turned me down, so then I started killing. Or when I was little, I would decapitate animals, and that fueled me. But he never had a thing.
Maybe because Vietnam.
That could be.
There's all of this is just scary to think of a lot of different possible
And
situations.
then him to not get caught for that long, only until this
Last year.
last year.
That. So I guess we could say, everyone, please be safe. That's our time for today.
Merry Christmas.
Y'all have a good break. We'll see you hopefully soon. This is the O-Megaa team signing off.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.